Aldenicum is a fictitious word that obviously stands for the Apocrypha meaning. At the same time, it's a long-form fantastic poem, which is meant to give the reader a picture of reality from rather different and alternative points of view. Aldenicum poem consists of 3 parts called Genesis, Inferno, and Eitsehore Eggs respectively, composed in the English language. Due to its internationality, the poem is supposed to be comprehensible for everyone from all over the globe. Aldenicum, Part 1, Genesis. There is the greatest mystery of fleeting life, which is meant to be told and heard on this frail earth. Sometimes it's feeling like a real punishment, once man was made to accept as well as carry on. Therefore, it nags at his troubled mind, by causing him to put forth questions such as these: who am I? Where do I come from? And the most important of which is, where am I finally going to come to rest? The answers, however, are still kept hidden, to be partially revealed later in time, by certain superior creatures living out there, called controllers. They are watching over us from above. On this solid ground we must appear rather helpless, roughly resembling a large mound of ants, continuously seeking something significant, that none of us can fully comprehend. Once upon a time, there was a vastly sophisticated race of highly developed and complicated life forms, existing among many other civilizations and worlds, somewhere out there, in the eternal universe. They were neither good nor bad, because such a measure is quite obsolete, as people should realize, when it's taken into account in the light of intergalactic time and space terms. Once they were given a promising offer by Almighty God Himself, that they should never give up. The Creator wished them to come a bit closer to Himself, as a result of the universal law of the highest expediency. Thus God proposed them to upgrade themselves, by becoming more unified and taking a step upward. Most of them agreed. After leaving their home space, they moved on toward the residence of God. A minority of the race was in a disagreement with the decree, however, wishing to preserve their own structure. They decided not to climb that one level up and leave all things as they were, before that moment. Therefore, this sophisticated race asked God not to insist. They were content with what they already had. Nevertheless, they gained His anger and were cursed once they refused the divine offer. Having been punished, they were sent down deep and were obligated to begin a new living inside of the place that a lot of civilizations start from, as in the beginning, before their unavoidable upward climb. A great amount of time passed thereafter, before an incredible idea was born on their brilliant minds. Playing God was rather easy for them, as most parts of their capabilities did stay on their own side. The planet they settled on proved to be a half-intelligent one that could easily support any biological life. Letting it improve and adjust its conditions, they helped with creating first complex living organisms. After a while, the planet became filled with different creatures, interacting and reproducing of their own accord. There was something missing in them, however, the absence of true intelligence working wonders. They finally managed to find the proper means to obtain what was really required, called magic seeds. To continue to work on their secret experiment, they truly desired to bring to the light of existence. Having divided those magic seeds across the planet, according to their thoughts and plans, the race made it easy for the seeds to make a research that would be totally up to their own decisions and choice. Another eon of years passed, but the race could wait, as it always did on this timeline. Backstage, numerous local life forms happened to be destroyed and murdered by those exacting magic seeds. At the beginning it seemed sad and hopeless. Some species of apes, however, were able to survive by giving birth to offspring different from their ancestors. Besides, all the apes went through genetic surgeries. As a result, those apes that did survive started slowly transforming in body as well as in mind, becoming intelligent. The magic seeds functioning inside them began to change their consciousness, improving it without limits. Unfortunately, even though they now possess a recorded history of the last 5,000 years, people are still unaware of how a great many things looked earlier, in prehistoric periods, a long time before these modern ages came into being. Suddenly, each around the planet and this race became alarmed. They all also had something to realize, to get worried about these newest progressing creatures, who were in a speedy development now. Therefore, they began to discuss whether they should clean them up to the fullest once and for all. The reason was, the survivors possessed a very unique type of intelligence, one without any limitations. After a long term of discussions and arguments occurring over this strange, but promising form of life, there was a contract released, issuing this, and signed up accordingly, by all those on interested sides. Strictest control over this new civilization was to be established and carried out in all time thereafter. The planet was then turned into a giant prison for those who ever objected to Almighty God's wish and respect. Creatures were brought back to the planet again after dying, according to the matter of reincarnation, specially designed for recently sentenced aliens, initially inhabiting lots of different civilizations and worlds. They were sent to this planetary prison from all the farthest reaches of the universe, existing on the same level. Each was now equal in appearance in this jail, no matter if one was truthfully guilty or innocent. Our rapidly progressing apes were doomed to be partially exterminated by disasters artificially made on a regular basis. Due to reaching a significant level of intelligence, doing so, they became quite dangerous for that highly advanced race. As a reliable solution to the challenge, special mental filters had been installed in their minds, to prevent them from developing unlimited intelligence and forcing them to stay sleeping all their fleeting lives. It turned out, the apes have not been the only sort of creatures to start and progress to new life forms since then. The magic seeds picked up some types of serpents, also trying to convert them into clever ones. To the great surprise of many other races, watching over the planet since the beginning of time, some of those serpents proved to be able to give birth to promising offspring which could also survive. The serpents chosen become much more advanced in comparison to the apes on the timeline backstage, because there had been no installed barriers in their minds, preventing them from acquiring knowledge. Another highly intelligent race, of a reptilian sort, arriving from a distant part of the universe noticed them. Having taught these local serpents, they later turned them into supervisors on this experimental place. Meanwhile, these two cultures are still living on the same globe, sharing same air and territory. As a rule, the race of former apes is mostly unaware of those incredibly smart and crafty serpents. Should we say that the intelligent apes were revolutionarily converted slowly into modern humans, and the serpents are now those who have kept us under tight control on this earthly layer ever since? There were hybrid forms, coming out through acts of crossbreeding, between mankind and reptiles. They left notable tracks in history, as they were always the greatest imposters and leaders. Having been secretly integrated into different human societies by certain and highly shadowy players, they were supposed to lead and direct people to directions and places desirable for our controllers. The hybrids, half people, half snakes, quickly took over the planet and began to rule it in human terms. Human-like, but reptilian inside, such half-blood personalities have existed since ancient times, till modern ones. They were always able and allowed to receive much strength, necessary camouflage and support from their very reptilian background. It has also been by means of enslavement of ordinary people around. Their global aim is to treat all of us as a pure slave, since the birth, right up to the physical death. It's well known, the financial system based on usury was just that perfect tool to be used as a smart way to collect up all goods of the entire world, at certain hands, without brutal forces being applied, but by lending money at interest to others. In other words, this means a robbery of all the peoples worldwide. They usually attempt to pervert it all, and to say lies, and to look to others, as they actually never are, to hide from public attention what is being simply false and therefore, that should never be tried on. A white thing, they are going to call black, something that is true, they claim as being a lie and etc. It is done to make our minds totally mixed up, by deceiving us into believing in what they so desire. Such various parasitic forms of hidden and absolutely other kind, inhabiting under covers of humanity, became used to existing for a long time, using our vital energy and even some of that very specific type, a type of energy being produced when one is tortured and doomed to suffer by slowly dying. Because of fake medicine, drugs, wars, stresses each is obligated to face in this predestined life. An infinite number of victims have been brought to the altar of sacrificed fire since the first crossbreeding, for the sake of survival of those manipulating creatures which now are loath to exist separately from us, manipulated and fooled human beings. This invisible slavery cannot go on this way forever. This is because everything in the universe is known to have both a beginning and an eventual end. A very incredible and important turning point is coming closer now, that seems somewhat like a crossroad. Not everyone is able to come it through, as infectious life will not be allowed to be brought out there. Those forms which control us will either be partly cleaned up or stopped completely before their passing. Therefore, each one is believed to be given equal chances at that great and remarkable moment. Man is still blind and frightened into a fit, with his wings tied, and lost expectations for a better fate. They use us as food, holding humans there where they are currently kept, in this untouchable prison. The chain of our souls is never going to be broken, however, as our spirits were designed to be perfect. Humans have to survive against all odds. They are not yet ready to receive all of their freedom though. At this point of stage, the first part is finally coming to an end. It is by no means the end of Aldenicum. In fact, the past of man has already been enlightened enough, and the same goes for his nearest future, which has to be expecting to touch and treat everyone, easy or hard, in this approaching period. There is no knowledge available, as life is now almost ready to rid itself of its current predestined status. Everything is going to be flexible enough to vary from infernal scenarios of global disasters that are believed to concern the majority of people, by erasing most of them from this solid layer, right up to the existence resembling the lost paradise described in many sacred texts of major religions, which humans possessed once, but later they were all made to give up and eventually forget. This is the end of the first part of Aldenicum. It's being read by Amy Rosenberg.